Ouija boards have long been viewed as mysterious devices that supposedly allow users to communicate with spirits from beyond our world. Typically made of wood or cardboard, these boards display letters, numbers, and common words, with the planchette piece as the indicator for the responses. While many brush them off as harmless games, true believers assert that Ouija boards hold real supernatural powers to reveal messages from ghosts, demons, or other entities. Tonight, we recount 3 bone-chilling and allegedly true tales of Ouija board exploits gone wrong. So let's see what happened to these users when they asked their questions. Portal in the basement. We start with 16-year-old Katie, whose family's Ouija board unleashed a night of terror from her own basement, when curiosity compelled her and her friends to give it a try. Katie first learned about Ouija boards from some internet stories when she was 16. She asked her mom if they had one in the house and was surprised when her mom said it was packed away with the board games. Katie convinced her mom to dig it out so she could use it for some spooky fun with her friends. Sure enough, buried in the basement storage was an old dusty box labeled Ouija. The next weekend, when her parents were gone, Katie invited her friends Liam, Jack, and younger brother Adam over late at night to finally see if the mystical Ouija board was the real deal. The 4 of them set up the board on the floor of Katie's basement loft, which had been converted to her bedroom. With only a lone flashlight in the corner to give them a glow, they turned off the other lights and started their late-night Ouija session. Katie asked if there was a spirit present to make the planchette move. Slowly, the pointer crept to yes for its first response. The friends looked at each other skeptically but continued. The board revealed that it was a 67-year-old spirit. Katie's brother Adam asked next how it died, and the board spelled out murder. Trying to lighten the mood, Katie jokingly asked if the spirit was a demon. Before she could blink, the flashlight flickered off, leaving them in complete darkness. Katie scrambled to the flashlight and clicked the switch rapidly with no luck. They had no choice but to abandon their game and fled Katie's loft, nerves shaken. But the night's terrors were only beginning. Later, when attempting to fall asleep, Katie heard a loud crash from inside her closet. Heart pounding, she turned on the light and opened the closet door cautiously. No intruder was inside, but a memory box had inexplicably fallen off the shelf. Too frightened to be alone, Katie slept in her parents' bedroom that night. In the days following, Katie refused to keep the Ouija board anywhere near her room. The night spent there filled her with a nameless dread after what she witnessed firsthand. She never touched an Ouija board again, having learned their supernatural powers harbor real dangers beneath that mystic facade. Our next disturbing Ouija encounter features Mark, a pragmatic man who considers himself too grounded in reality to buy into paranormal nonsense. That certainty would be tested one dark night when Mark joined his buddy George and 2 girls to use a Ouija board inside a decrepit abandoned house. George and Mark picked up George's new girlfriend Mandy and her friend Carly late one weekend night. Mandy was really into spooky things like communicating with spirits, much to logical Mark's amusement. She directed them to park near a neglected old house outside town that was rumored to be haunted. Mark assumed the girls wanted a thrill by trespassing and telling ghost stories in the creepy dwelling. He initially had no idea an Ouija board awaited inside. Mark helped the girls climb into the house through a broken window in the back. His scoffs about supernatural activity irritated Mandy. All the furniture from decades past remained, albeit covered in soot and cobwebs. They wandered the lifeless rooms as their flashlight beams fell upon eerie portraits of those who once dwelled there. Mandy had explored here before but brought her Ouija board this night, hoping to finally contact lingering spirits. In the dusty living room with candles as their only light source, Mandy convinced them to open communication from beyond. As they placed fingers on the planchette, she implored nearby souls to give them a sign. The slow, tentative movement formed the message, "Hello." Mandy delightedly shot Mark a vindicated glare. Personally, still unconvinced, Mark humored the occult exercise. More questions extracted the name Gregory, who allegedly died in this house over 30 years ago, but their baiting queries took a dark turn next. Mandy brazenly asked if Gregory's ghost remained here because foul play caused his death. A loud crash from upstairs jolted the nervously giggling friends to their feet. Mandy suggested Sly Gregory wanted to lure someone upstairs to show them evidence of his untimely demise. Never one to scare easily, Mark and George volunteered to check while insisting the crash had natural explanations. On their way up the debris-littered stairwell, Mark yelled down to prove ghosts weren't real. Their mocking call was met with only silence in response. Arriving upstairs, the pair immediately confronted the eerie sensation of being watched from the shadows. The temperature seemed several degrees colder, causing goosebumps to prickle their skin. Mark's gut instinct told him to retreat, but macho pride pushed him toward the open doorway of the master bedroom instead. Inside, the decades-old furnishings remained, now rotting and covered in a thick layer of dust. Brittle carpeting crunched under their cautious steps. George called out nervously to prove they weren't afraid while shining his flashlight around in search of the source of the crash. Against the far wall, a closet door stood ajar. George was ready to dismiss the room and rejoin the girls until an unmistakable visceral exhale emanated from the closet's darkness. They froze as the hairs on the back of their necks stood erect. Had someone been hiding in there the whole time, watching them? Before either could react, the closet door violently slammed shut on its own. The terrified men fled from the room without hesitation, nearly tumbling down the hazardous stairs in their haste. But to their bewilderment, upon reaching the first floor, they found no trace of the girls or the Ouijia board they left behind. Shaken to their cores, Mark and George escaped from the malevolent abandoned house that clearly no longer wanted their disruptive company. Outside in the weed-choked yard, they saw no sight of Mandy's car either. Mark tried her cell again with no luck as they gave up searching for an explanation and peeled off into the night. After that fateful encounter, Mandy never spoke to George again. And the true fate of her and Carly remains an unsolved, scary mystery in Mark's memory even today. Grandma, is that you? Halloween approaches once more, that time of year when fascination with the supernatural runs high. For one high school girl named Amanda, indulging her rising interests meant ordering an Ouija board online to experiment with occult communication. But summoning spirits proved far too real when a loved one's voice returned from the grave to haunt her via the mystical board. Amanda was in a horror phase, devouring scary stories involving Ouija boards. When her purchased board arrived, she convinced her younger sister to test its powers on a quiet night while their parents were out. As they rested fingers on the planchette, Amanda asked various questions aloud, but got no responses. She then began consciously moving the pointer just to mess with her sister. They abandoned the lackluster attempt before long, both exiting to their own rooms. Later that night, as Amanda lay in bed browsing Ouija forums, she read that multiple participants and repeated tries often had better success. Glancing at the clock and seeing it was just past 1 a.m., she figured another solo round couldn't hurt, while the rest of the household slept. Amanda crept to the kitchen table, candles and board reassembled under dim light. Settling into her seat, she closed her eyes to focus her spiritual energies and mentally opened the gateway for presence to enter this plane. When Amanda asked if spirits could hear her plea, soft thuds sounded from upstairs as if approaching footsteps. Frozen in suspense, she could hardly breathe, awaiting the next sign. Amanda begged invisible room occupants to give her a clear message if here. An elderly yet ethereal female voice responded. At first too faint to interpret the repeated phrase, Amanda's blood ran cold once discernible. "Grandma's here," it uttered from over and over above in her brother's vacant bedroom. Amanda's grandmother died years ago, which could only mean one thing. Her spirit had somehow crossed back over. Fearfully ascending upstairs step by step, Amanda knew deep down nothing prepared humans to encounter the departed made flesh. The weak candle flame extinguished itself before she could reach the last step. In the encompassing blackness that followed, the unmistakable smell of her grandma's signature lavender perfume overwhelmed Amanda's senses. Unable to contend any longer with forces beyond her control, Amanda retreated downstairs to hastily return the Ouija board to its box. She sought solace hiding under protective covers, praying for desperate forgiveness for the ignorance that almost opened floodgates between realms unconscionably. Sleep's relief eluded Amanda as her grandmother's voice persisted to echo all night in ceaseless repetition. Attempting communication through Ouija boards is not a casual game without consequences. We have explored but a chilling few of the endless documented supernatural encounters, from its powers being misused or awakening dormant spirits. Ghostly run-ins, as we've shared here, attest that Ouija's realm of influence should not be taken lightly. My courteous advice is not to trifle with forces beyond mortal experience unless properly prepared for such an awakening. Our human forms remain temptations for discarnate entities seeking channels to impact our reality once more. Consider yourself warned and think twice before inviting them in. And if you liked the video, press the like button and subscribe for more scary tales.